I received a question yesterday that asked me if you could get the proximity effect using modelers or with using software like GuitarRig or Amplitude, or if it was just something that you could do with a condenser mic or with a dynamic mic. So I'm going to attempt to answer that question. First of all, to recap, the proximity effect basically is the closer that a microphone is to a sound source, the more low end it picks up. So it's like built-in EQ, but it just uses a microphone. So let's. So what I did this morning, because I was just a little bit curious because I'd never really used GuitarRig, even though I have the software. So today I did a little shootout where I basically take a Blackstar HT5 amplifier and I mic it at about 5 inches away from the speaker. Then I close mic it about 1 inch. Then I run it direct. Then I run it through GuitarRig. Then I use the effects from the TC Helicon VoiceLive Play GTX. And then finally the Zoom G5. And the whole thing was really kind of interesting. So what I'm going to attempt to do at the moment is kind of go through each one and let you hear each one. And hopefully you'll be able to kind of hear the difference between each one. Now first, it's important to note that I'm a big fan of what I call the 80-20 rule. The 80-20 rule basically says if you can get 80% of the sound with 20% of the work, then definitely do that. So we're going to start off with the Blackstar HT5. This is my little cheat sheet over there. And this is mic'd at about 5 inches away. So, you know, that sounds great. You know, it sounds good. You know, I would be happy having that guitar tone in any of the home recordings that I do. This is the Blackstar HT5 recorded with a Samsung CS2 at about 1 inch. So there's just a little bit more low end in it this way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play that same phrase, and I will do it once at 5 inches and once at 1 inch. And let's see if you can hear the difference. So this is at 5 inches. Now to me, you know, there are a few more overtones. It sounds a little bit more rich and a little bit more full. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to play what the Blackstar HT5 sounds like when it's run direct. Now the interesting thing, in my opinion, is if a manufacturer is going to put a direct out on an amplifier, they're basically saying, we certify that this sounds the way that we think that this amp should sound. So let's hear the HT5 run direct. Now to me, again, that sounds perfectly good. It's a little bit brighter, in my opinion. It's somewhere, it's like, it's somewhere between like 5 inches and that 1 inch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play it at direct. Then I'm going to go direct to 1 inch. Then I'm going to go to 5 inches and then back to direct. So this is direct. that's direct. Each one, sounds great. Each one sounds, incredible. And really, at that point, it's just a matter of taste. Now, the next one that I'm going to do is GuitarRig. Now, I have to admit that, as I hunt for a cable, my recording with GuitarRig wasn't optimal. And it wasn't optimal because I was basically using a 1/4 inch to 1/8 inch, and I was going in through my headphone jack on my laptop. Headphone jacks are notoriously noisy, so I'm assuming that it would have sounded better if I was using a USB audio interface, but since I do all of my recording using outboard gear, I didn't have one laying around, so yeah, I made do with what I had. So it's a little bit noisy. Interestingly enough, to me, there's just a touch of latency with going through to the going into GuitarRig. Now, again, it could simply be the fact that I'm going through a microphone jack, and the computer has slow A to D converters, which is making it get to GuitarRig a little bit slower. I know that Vernon Reid from Living Color uses GuitarRig, and he uses amplitude, and he doesn't have any lag or any latency. So I'm willing to fully admit that it's probably due to my less than optimal setup. But latency turns out to be really important. So if you're going in via a cable into your headphone jack, it's just something to consider. Guitar players even use certain cables when going to their guitar amp because they think that the sound travels faster from their jack to their amplifier. So, this is something that guitarists have wrestled with. So the hiss that you hear is actually coming from amplitude. And I tried a couple of things, and I really only got rid of it kind of once, but that was using one of the mastering effects, and I didn't think that it would be fair to add an extra layer of delay and reverb and probably compression into the amp rig that I set up. Now to me, again, that just sounds incredible. It sounds really great. And it really sounds a lot, in my opinion, like the direct output. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to play that again and A/B it with the direct out of the... This is direct out. 5 inches. I mean 1 inch rather, I'm sorry. 5 inches. And again, they all sound really great. So really, at this point, if I had to say what my favorites were, it would definitely be the Blackstar mic'd at 1 inch because I just like the darker tone. At this point, it's probably a toss-up, a close second between GuitarRig and running direct, followed by being mic'd at 5 inches. So the next thing that I'm going to play is the TC Helicon VoiceLive Play GTX. The TC Helicon VoiceLive Play GTX is actually a vocal processor that they also put guitar effects into. So they took basically their best vocal effects and their best guitar effects, and they put them into one box that a singer-songwriter could take to any gig, plug a mic in, plug his guitar in, and not have to worry about carrying an amplifier. Has real cool features like a looper and so that you can loop the guitar and you can loop your vocals and all sorts of really cool things like that. So whereas I played GuitarRig first, and then I tried to mimic that sound with the amplifier. This is as close as I came with the TC Helicon VoiceLive Play. It doesn't give you the ability to tweak things deeply, but the sounds that it has, in my opinion, are very, very, very usable. So this is the TC Helicon VoiceLive Play GTX. to me, that's definitely a very full sound. And it reminds me a lot of the amp mic'd it at 1 inch in terms of the overtones and just in terms of everything that I could hear. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to start with the Helicon, and then I'm going to tell you which ones I go to so that you can kind of hear what's going on. So this is the VoiceLive Play GTX. This is mic'd at 1 inch. GuitarRig. And direct. So each one has its own subtle little color, and again, using the 80-20 rule, I would happily record with any of these. The last one that I'm going to play is the Zoom G5. To me, the Zoom G5 was really the disappointing item out of all of this. I'd been recording direct using the GT5 for about a year before I picked up the Blackstar amp and started using it. And what I found is that as I listened to it in the shootout, it was the most disappointing thing to work with, because it took me literally 10 times longer in order to get the sound that I wanted out of it. So, you know, GuitarRig, it was point click, this is the rig that I want. I was done in, you know, less than a minute. You know, the same thing with the Blackstar amp. I use it. It already has my settings in it. The Helicon, you know, that's a preset. Didn't have to do any tweaking with that. It took me literally 10, 12 minutes to dial in the sound that you're about to hear. And in my opinion, it's kind of lacking a little something, but it's still usable. You know, it's not horrible. It just isn't my favorite. So what I'm going to do right now is kind of go through everything. I'm going to go through all of the various sounds, and I'm going to do them one by one, and then I'll let you know which one I really thought my favorite was. So I'm going to start with the Zoom G5 and work my way back. So this is the Zoom G5. Helicon VoiceLive Play, GuitarRig, direct, mic'd at 1 inch, mic'd at 5 inches. Anyway, so that's my opinion. So just to recap, you know, being a big fan of the 80-20 rule, whether you use GuitarRig or Amplitude or a modeler or anything of that nature, it's really easy to get the sound that you want. I have my personal preferences. You know, for what I'm listening to as a guitarist, for what brings me the greatest amount of joy, I would say that miking the amp at 1 inch, or using the TC Helicon VoiceLive Play GTX really provides that bass clean sound with a little bit of reverb and delay that I'm looking for. All right, well, if there are any additional questions, just let me know and I'll try to answer them. Thanks.